How does a leader, especially in these very, very tough economic times, where downsizing in organizations from an employee standpoint is becoming more and more commonplace, how does a leader keep the remaining employees there focused on the mission? How does the leader keep those employees still motivated to do the job when they might be thinking, am I next? Doctor, could you start that one, please?
That is very difficult. That's probably one of the most difficult things a leader has to face is someone potentially losing their job. And while I've been fortunate not to have to face it a lot working for the federal government, it does happen that people have to be laid off. And I just keep coming back to communications. How do you communicate with them? How do you show them empathy? If you have been a standoff leader prior to this, whatever this is happening, the layoffs, you're probably still going to be a standoff leader. If you have some goodwill established with these individuals, and if you can find creative ways to help them through this so that there is a plan B, I think you'll be appreciated for that. You can't just sort of say, okay, well, this is going to be their problem. You're the leader. It's your problem too. And it's like family in many organizations. And when someone in your family loses their job or potentially does, that can be very nerve-wracking. I would also suggest that you go to some of the professionals. There are employee assistance folks who are very good at dealing with these sorts of situations. Don't think that it all has to be you. You can have people, HR professionals, and so forth that can sit down with these people and let them know the options, but also insofar as you can, and Colleen talked about the fact that some negotiations are sort of under seal. You can't talk about them at various points. But you've got to continually tell them at least, we're negotiating today, we're negotiating tomorrow. If all of a sudden your negotiators are taking a week off, that doesn't look very good. You have to be focused on their needs first.
Chief?
Sure. Yeah, I think again, it comes back to focusing on the mission, reminding people why we're there, focusing on the day today, that we'll deal with tomorrow as we come to the degree that you can reasonably do that. But I think to celebrate milestones, to celebrate the positive things and not just take them for granted. I think too often we have tremendous work being done every day and night by the men and women of our organizations. And so often that we say, okay, that's what you get paid for. But it's stuff that if somebody else saw that wasn't reading this kind of stuff or exposed to it every day, their mouth would be wide open and they go, oh my God, what an operation that was, or that was very brave to do what you did. And I think too often we forget that. But also then if we're, like for instance, a lot of our organizations have cut back on overtime training, those are the first things to go. On the overtime piece, a lot of our folks are relying on that for their house payment, for other things. During times of crisis, we may want to, as an organization, review our off-duty employment policies. How many hours a week do we allow? Is it reasonable? Can we extend it for a pilot period of time for people who are being laid off? Can we reach out through the media or through the unions or through others to be able to see if we can pick up something on the private sector for people, even if it's only a short time, hoping that we can bring them back into the organization? But too often I think that we feel that it's beyond our control, that we have to make layoffs, it's a budget cut, and hey, I'm sorry, I wish you well. But rather than doing just that, taking it to the next step and trying to be an advocate for them and helping them, putting yourself in their shoes is really what it comes down to. If you were in their shoes, what would you expect from real leadership, from your organization, the organization that you've given everything you have in your working life to? You'd expect more than a pink slip and a wave and a good luck and a handshake. You'd expect somebody, or you would love to say that you would expect somebody to be able to go further than that and do all they could to try and help you and your family. If you can do that, you've got somebody then for life who will be loyal to the organization and the mission of the organization.
Colleen?
When we had our operating budget reduction, the directive that was given to me, we had advance notice, so it was not something that it was like when the Orange County went bankrupt and all of a sudden overnight You're having to, stop all purchasing. We couldn't even buy toilet paper for our juvenile institutions until we got an emergency order for that. So this was different. We knew ahead of time. We saw the shortfall. Our retirement costs went up by $12 million in 1 year. We did not get additional funds for that. The county budgets were, the forecasting was 5 years out. And without additional revenues, you had to make some reductions. And unless you had the natural attrition, which you ordinarily would have had in a good economy, you have natural attrition. People leave, they get trained by us, they go to other departments, and so on. But that wasn't happening, and so you had just this collision effect of issues that created that $22 million shortfall. So I had attended a training through the Orange County Police Chiefs and Sheriffs Association about a year before, and there was a speaker there who had at the time worked for the city of Irvine, and she was a professional media person, had worked on TV and news broadcasting and so on, but she was a professional communicator. That was what she did, and she worked for the city of Irvine as their PIO. Fantastic. Some of the best 4 hours I've ever had as a chief, because what she did is she gave me a tool to use during regular business days, if you will, the regular business of the department. And she said it's a regular communication tool. Call it what you want. But it's something, it's like the water cooler talk that you would have if you were all in one office so that people know what's going on in the department. So I called it Coffee with the Chief. And it became a chatty kind of an email I would do once a week. Sometimes it'd be a paragraph, sometimes it might be a whole page. But it was to bring people up to date on what was going on. And I used that for good news, and I used it for, this big, beautiful ship we're all on. I see some stormy waters coming. We're going to have to hunker down, and people have to take their posts, and it's going to be a rough 6 months, and I will keep you posted. And so started to get communication out there, and it was all facts, money information. This is what the state says, this is what the county looks like, this is what the nation looks like. We've got some options in other counties. I will keep you apprised, because people were getting information. They were hearing about things going on. I wanted them to hear from me the truth. So I think if you have some type of a way to communicate with people that you establish before there's a crisis, and you maintain that, you have a vehicle to talk to people. They're used to that vehicle. And then you have credibility with people because they know you care. The other thing that we did was really more process orientation, was we did set up a whole job placement seminar that was 8 hours, and people would go to different stations. We held it at our HR office, and people appreciated that. And then we also, people having negotiated with our labor groups, rehire rights within 2 years, because if the economy could turn around and a little attrition, we could bring the people back without having to go through, the huge recruitment process that you ordinarily have to go through. So there's things that you can do. Again, also making sure that you look at your policies to see if people need, if they can have more hours off duty working at other jobs, you can be a little more lenient with that, etc. But a regular communication tool with facts, with money, telling them this is what the budget looks like. We're looking at ways to mitigate the impact to the organization. We'll give you information as we can. That's all we can do.
Thank you.